Townes Van Zandt songs. Excellent. Are you ready, Mr. Poe? All right, coming up, we have my good friend T-Poe doing some spoken word on this subject. Let's welcome T-Poe.
Oh, sure. This first one's by Robert Service. And back in the 1890s, when they were panning for gold in Alaska and the Yukon, everything gold was money. And the little leather bag that people carried their gold dust in was called a poke. That was your poke of dust. Dangerous Dan McGrew. A bunch of the boys were whooping it up at the Malamute Saloon. The kid that handles the music box was hitting the jag-time tune. Back of the bar, in a solo game, sat Dangerous Dan McGrew. And watching his luck was his light of love, the lady that's known as Lou. When out of the night, which was 50 below, and into the din and glare, there stumbled a miner, fresh from the creeks, dog dirty and loaded for bear. He looked like a man with a foot in the grave and barely the strength of a louse, yet he tilted a poke of dust on the bar and he called for drinks for the house. There was none could place the stranger's face, though we searched ourselves for a clue, yet we drank his health, and the last to drink was Dangerous Dan McGrew. There's men who somehow just grip your eyes and hold them hard like a spell, and such was he. And he looked at me like a man who had lived in hell, with a face most hair and the dreary stare of a dog whose day was done, as he watered the green stuff in his glass and the drops fell one by one. And I got to figuring who he was and wondering what he'd do. And I turned my head, and there watching him was the lady that's known as Lou. Then his eyes went rubbering around the room, and he seemed in a sort of daze, till at last that old piano fell in the way of his wandering gaze. The ragtime kid was having a drink. There was no one else on the stool, so the stranger stumbles across the room, and he flops down there like a fool. In a buckskin shirt that was glazed with dirt, he sat and I saw him sway. Then he touched the keys with his talon hands. My God, but that man could play. Were you ever out in the great alone when the moon was awful clear and the icy mountains hemmed you in with a silence you most could hear, with only the howl of a timber wolf and you camped there in the cold? A half-dead thing in a stark dead world, clean mad for the monk called gold. But high overhead, green, yellow, and red, the north light swept in bars. Then you've a hunch what the music meant. Hunger and night and the stars. And not the hunger of the belly kind that's banished with bacon and beans, but the gnawing hunger of lonely men, for home and all that it means, for a fireside far from the cares that are, four walls and a roof above, but oh so crammed full of cozy joy, and crowned with a woman's love, a woman that's dearer than all the world, and true as heaven is true. God, how ghastly she looks through her rouge, the lady that's known as Lou. Then on a sudden, the music broke so soft that you scarce could hear, and you felt that your life had been looted clean of all that it once held dear, that someone had stolen the woman you loved. Their love was a devil's lie, that your guts were gone, and the best for you was to crawl away and die. It was the crowning cry of a heart's despair, and it thrilled you through and through. I guess I'll make it a spread, monsieur. said Dangerous Dan McGrew. Then the music almost died away, and it burst like a pent-up flood, and it seemed to say, repay, repay, and my eyes were blind with blood. The thought came back of an ancient wrong, and it stung like a frozen lash, and the lust awoke, to kill, and the music died with a crash, and the stranger returned, and his eyes, they burned in a most peculiar way. In a buckskin shirt that was glazed with dirt, he sat and I saw him sway. Then his lips went in a kind of grin, and he spoke, and his voice was calm. And boys, says he, you don't know me, and none of you give a damn. But I want to state, and my words are straight, and I'll bet my poke they're true, that one of you is a hound of hell, and that one is Dan McGrew. Then I ducked my head, and the lights went out, and two guns blazed in the dark, and a woman screamed, and the lights went up, and two men lay stiff and stark. Pitched on his head and pumped full of lead was Dangerous Dan McGrew, while the man from the creeks lay clutched to the breast of the lady that's known as Lou. Now these are the simple facts of the case, and I guess I ought to know. They say the stranger was crazed with hooch, and I'm not denying so, because I'm not so wise as some lawyer guys, but strictly between us two, the lady that kissed him and pinched his poke was a lady that's known as Lou. Robert Sherwood. Oh yeah, like you were listening.
I was.
Bullshit.